In 1951, Henry E. Clark Jr., his wife Johnetta, and their 2 children moved into an apartment in Cicero, Illinois, a predominantly white suburb. Seeking a better life, the Clarks' move triggered one of the largest race riots in U.S. history. On July 11th, a mob of 4,000 white residents gathered, outraged by the presence of a black family. The crowd threw bricks, set fires, and destroyed property, forcing the family to flee. Police largely stood by, failing to protect them. The riot drew national outrage, exposing the harsh realities of racism in northern cities. The Clarks' bravery, however, became a symbol of the fight for housing equality. Their story shed light on systemic racism and inspired further activism in the civil rights movement. The courage of families like the Clarks continues to remind us of the resilience and determination required to combat injustice.
All right, Shalom. We are the Hebrew Israelites from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone. You're here to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the 4 corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.
All right. Before we get into this video, just want to declare fair use, according to the Copyright Act of 1976, as stipulated under Section 107. There's no monetary gain from the use of this information. It is strictly for the purposes of teaching and educating according to the Copyright Act of 1976. All right, this is another installment of our camp series called For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob. Today's topic is going to be the Cicero Riot of 1951. That's just outside of Chicago, a Chicago suburb. The article comes from one of our notable sources, blackpast.org. We will put a link to this article in the description box for you can read at your own leisure. Okay, so without further ado, have the opening scripture.
Obadiah, verse 10, says, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
And this is talking about Esau Edom, the violence he has committed against the 12 tribes of Israel. Again, primarily the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And it says the shame is gonna cover you. All right, and that's what's happening today. All of your BS, that you've done to the children of Israel is being openly revealed, and quiet is kept. Everybody's starting to hate you for it because they realize that not only even though your primary focus was the children of Israel, you didn't duped other nations as well too.
Precept.
And they tired of you. Go ahead.
This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 and verse 16. It says, Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. See, the foreskin being uncovered is ultimately going to what Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, being exposed. And the Lord, he's doing that via his servants, the prophets, you see. And the series that we're doing, For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob, that is a prime example of Esau, Edom's shame being seen, you see. And as it's been commanded unto us by Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, in Ezekiel the 35th chapter, with that information, what we're doing is prophesying against Mount Seir being Edom. All right, we bring out their wickedness, and along with that, we tell them the judgment that's coming upon them for the wickedness they committed. It says, the cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. And just like you were going into how, Esau's main target was you Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and in the process of Esau afflicting Jake, all right, these other nations have been duped too, you see. So, America was once looked at as the big, the bad, the brave, and the bold. But now we're in a time where these other nations, man, they don't fear America.
Nope.
They don't respect America, you see. And that's ultimately the position that the Lord Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai has put America in, man.
So yeah, that shameful spewing is covering them, and then at the end of that, it says they're going to be cut off forever. Yes, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, you are going to go extinct. That has been your number one goal for Jacob, going all the way back to the curse. I'm sorry, his blessing in Genesis 27, around about verse 38 through 41, where you saw that pretty much Isaac was nearing his death, and you said in your heart, on your mind, that you were going to slay Jacob. You slay Jacob, the son of Isaac. That destroys the 12 tribes of Israel. We don't exist. And you had that hatred, that perpetual hatred, because you sold your own birthright. It is clear you're the one who does the dirty work and then claims victim villain, as you're called among GMS. That's what you are. Okay, but yeah, you are going to be the one who's going to go extinct. You're going to serve in captivity for 1,000 years, twice as long, twice as hard as we have, and then at the end of that, you're going to be exterminated. Okay, that's in Obadiah 18. All right, you will be exterminated at the hands of the children of Israel, the same ones you afflicted relentlessly. Okay,
Precept.
Go ahead.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 18. And the nations were angry that thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto the servants the prophets, and unto the saints, and to them that fear thy name, small and great. So the nations, like, just kind of backing up the point you are making, is that with all, when you read in Revelations 18, it says that all the nations have drunken of the wine of her fornication. So they had all partaken in the ways of the of Esau, Edom, and this kingdom, of changing their customs, their names, and all of that, only to be duped, to get the short end of the stick, and every agreement and every treaty, which we've it's been made known that they can't keep their agreements.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that even goes back spiritually to Jacob and Esau. For he sold his birthright for the one morsel of meat. Sold his birthright. But the nations, as a result, are angry. First and foremost, dealing with the children of Israel, starting with the elect of the children of Israel. This is why we're preaching the shame that is actually coming upon you. The shame is coming upon you because we're bringing out through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai all the things of which you've done. We're uncovering your secret parts.
Yep.
And then, of course, the dead being judged. Those 2/3 of our people that are spiritually dead. Like I said, they that wander out of the way of understanding remaineth in the congregation of the dead. Proverbs 21 and 16. So they're going to also, 2/3 of our people are going to get judged.
Yep.
But like I said, though hand joined in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished.
God.
Because many of our people are cleaving on still to the ways of Esau Edom. And it's going to be all the way up until those missiles are sent and the chariots of Yahweh by Shem Shai send forth fire concentrated upon this place as well. And it says to give reward unto the servants, the prophets, because the prophets are the ones that are speaking in these last times of all the things, the atrocities that are going on. So we always mention that scripture in Isaiah, cry out loud, spare not. We lift up our voice like a trumpet. That woman, that has been taken and that is continuously crying, out, because she don't agree with the savagery, the
wickedness, the abominations.
The abominations, like it says in the law. If the woman, she's being ravished, she's being raped, she cries out, then she's not being, she doesn't get in trouble, for the things that are happening. And when we liken Israel as a nation, the elect, as that woman crying out, because we don't agree with the things that are going on in this wicked place. And it says, so he's going to give reward to his servants, the prophets, and to the saints, which are the Israelites, and them that fear his name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroyeth the earth. And we've brought out many videos, and the prophets, starting with our head apostles and elders, have spoken of many things that have gone on upon the earth that have shown clearly the people, Esau, Edom, so-called white men, who have all the things they've done from upon the land, the trees, the air, the animals, you name it, has been completely contrary to the ways of the Heavenly Father. And it tells us, again, I've been bringing this out quite a bit in many of my videos and in general, John chapter 10, verse 10, the thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy. And Yahweh Shai, he comes to bring life. And so you're going to see the difference as to what we're going to bring out today with the thief, Esau Edom, with his how he is, according to this and many other videos that we've brought out.
Okay, so without further ado, we'll get into the article. Like I said, it's from blackpast.org. We'll put a link to this article in the description box. All right, this is the Cicero riot of 1951. It says the Cicero riot of 1951 occurred from July 11th through the 12th, 1951, when a mob of approximately 4,000 whites attacked an apartment building an African-American family had recently moved into in Cicero, Illinois, a Chicago suburb. The events leading up to the riot began in June 1951 when Mrs. Camille DeRose, owner of the building at 613943 West 19th Street in Cicero, rented an apartment to Henry E. Clark Jr., an African-American World War II veteran and graduate of Fisk University, his wife, Janetta Clark, and their 2 children in an all-white neighborhood. And then here again, right here, Jake goes and give his life for his country. Well, it's really not his country, because the scriptures tell us this place is not our rest. But he goes and fights for a country that he will never prosper in, and this is how that they treat him. Don't want him to even come home and live, a decent life. That's just the way they are. All right.
Now the system tells you, sound like he had exactly what the system portrayed for man to have: a house, wife, kids, right? He also fought for his country, so in a sense you could say decorated. And then he also had a college, right? They said Fisk.
Fisk University, yep.
So he had a college background, so he did everything in which the typical American patriotic man or woman in these days and time that they have pushed, that philosophy. And this is what he gets in return.
Precept.
Go ahead.
This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 26 and verse 28. It says, "There be 2 things that grieve my heart, and the third maketh me angry: a man of war that suffereth poverty, and men of understanding that are not set by, and one that returneth from righteousness to sin. The Lord prepares such an one for the sword." You see, and we see that today, man. You see, America don't even properly take care of their veterans. You see, and just imagine back then, because this is a Jake we're dealing with, right? And Esau Edom, a so-called white man, he has that perpetual hatred towards us as a people. You see, so it's like the scripture say, "He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good?" So Esau not even taking care of his own veterans, man. How much more Jake?
Yep.
Understanding that Esau has that intense bloodlust after the nation of Israel, man. And it's gonna go further into that as we read into the article, man. You see, no kind of remorse, mercy, okay? No kind of empathy for Jake, man. They just want to continually see Jake at the bottom.
Yep.
You see, but it's all right, cause Yahweh Shai said, "Many that are first shall be last, and many that are last shall be first."
Yep.
You see, right now we're on the bottom, and Esau's trying to keep us in that state, but ultimately it's not written for us to stay on the bottom forever.
God.
All right, soon here in the near future, man, we're going to be on the top, man, and Esau going to be on the bottom. He's going to be the tail, and we going to be the head.
Yep. Yeah, and mind you, you say the way they treat their own veterans. You got to remember, even during World War II, they wouldn't even let the so-called black people fighting in the war. They wouldn't even sit down and eat with them. They would rather sit down with the Germans, who they were fighting against. On site. So just nuts, man. And and now you see, I always watch that video of Muhammad Ali said, "Why am I going over there fighting for y'all? They ain't never called me out of my name. They never did this. They never did that. My problem here is you." And he was exactly right. Exactly right. All right. back to the article. It says, after learning of Mrs. DeRosa's decision, high-ranking Cicero official warned her it would be trouble for the Clarks if the black family moved into the apartment. On June 8, 1951, around 2:30 p.m., a moving van containing $2,000 worth of Clark's furniture was stopped by Cicero police, who told them to leave town or get arrested for protective custody. 20 police officers then grabbed Clark. He was hit 8 times as he pushed towards a car parked across the street and then shoved inside the car. The police warned him to get out of Cicero or he would be killed. Man. On June 26, 1951, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, better known as the NAACP, filed a suit against the Cicero Police Department, and shortly afterward, the Clark family moved in on July 11, 1951.
So the police department, which is supposed to serve and protect you, snatch you up and beat you down, and you still decide to go and move into this place. So that's why I said it's like even our people, man, we just so strong to want to be amongst them. You know, I know you paid your money, but you're going amongst, like, it was him by himself, like his family, and he's now going amongst all these people, and these so-called white folks, and you're going to be that one. Kind of makes you think of the movie Get Out, or the show. No, was it Get Out? No, what's the it was a Netflix series.
Them.
I didn't mean Get Out.
Them.
Where they showed up, and they were the only black family, and if you've never seen it, go watch it. Just to show you how they left one curse, pretty much, because Jake is cursed wherever we go. They left one situation and moved into a whole nother one. And so and then, like, even the movie we've been bringing out, Sinners, they were in Chicago. They left one situation and came right back to another one, but they were like, at least they knew the devil that they were dealing with, back at home.
Right.
Right. So you can't leave your situation, can't leave the curses, no matter how much money. And that's what Jake has a problem in thinking in general, especially like I watch in the you see in the media these athletes. I think it was one. I'm not gonna mention name, but the athletes will get to speaking about how they made it.
Yeah.
They make a few million. He's like, I made it. No, you haven't, because there's another set of problems that come along with it.
Yep.
And a lot of artists, and one in particular, he didn't coin the term of a Biggie. He used to say more money, more problems. So it's like the more money you make, the more demons and devils you have to deal with in those levels. So you got millionaires, and then you amongst those, and then you got the billionaires and the trillionaires and the higher up. These are these Edomites, because this is their world.
Yep.
The earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and they pretty much rule as such. They rule wickedly.
Yep, and that's how we don't want to stay on these celebrities too long, but that's the very reason why they can shift the focus from Jeffrey Epstein to Diddy. Not saying that he was innocent of anything, but that dude was on his list. He was on yours, and how is the focus on you? That's because you got much higher level elites at that one. Including the sitting president. There's pictures of him all over the place with that guy. But nevertheless, we'll get back to the article. All right, it says, on July 11th, 1951, a crowd of 4,000 whites attacked the apartment building where the Clark family had been staying for just 2 weeks. Although 60 police officers were assigned to the scene to control the rioting, women threw stones at Clark's windows, and other groups of white men tossed firebombs into the windows and the rooftop of the building. Other mob members reached the Clark apartment and set it on fire. Some of the whites who participated in the riot were teenagers. When the firemen arrived at the apartment building, they were met with bricks and stones thrown by the mob. Cook County Sheriff's deputies asked the firemen to turn their hoses on the rioters, but they refused to do so without an order from their lieutenant, who was unavailable at the time. How convenient. All right.
Read that last part, please.
He says, that last part says, when the firemen arrived at the apartment building, they were met by bricks and stones thrown by the mob. Cook County Sheriff's deputies asked the firemen to turn their hoses on the rioters, but they refused to do so without an order from their lieutenant, who was unavailable at the time. Yes,
No.
okay. All right. Yeah. It says, when it was obvious that the sheriff's deputies could not control the riot, County Sheriff John E. Babbs asked Illinois Governor Adlai Stevenson to send in the Illinois National Guard. As the Guard arrived at the scene, rioters fought with them. They wasn't playing, man. They didn't want them there for real. It says, armed with bayonet rifles and using tear gas, guardsmen ended the riot by setting a 300-meter, 328-yard perimeter around the apartment block. Most of the violence and rioting ended by the morning of July 12th. Through the ordeal, Clark and his family were not injured. It says, although over $20,000 in damage had been done to the building, the Cook County grand jury failed to indict any of the accused rioters. See?
The police were involved.
Yep.
They know the police that was stationed to be in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So they have witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But no one was indicted.
Mm-hmm. That's what we keep saying, man. Throughout all of these videos that we've been doing, it is without a doubt that the government or a faction thereof, going all the way down to the police, to every division of the government, they had a hand in Jake's demise.
Precept.
Whether it was directly or indirectly. Go ahead.
This is Psalms chapter 73 in the beginning of verse 5. It says, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. It says, you quoted earlier, the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. You see, so with the wicked being in rulership over the planet Earth, man, righteous judgment will never proceed forth, man.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So that's why Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is able to do all this wickedness. You see? And since he's not in trouble as other men, guess what? That pride builds up in him, and he just continues to wax worse in that wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
Right, as he goes on to read, verse 6 says, therefore pride compasses them about as a chain, and violence covereth them as a garment. So as time goes on, man, they're going to be more proud. All right, they're going to be increasingly violent.
Mm-hmm.
All right, towards you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and ultimately that's with the basis in their minds that they think they can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but ultimately those of us in the know, we understand that the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is hardening this devil's heart. All right, for that ultimate knockout punch, man.
God.
Being those nuclear missiles.
Yep, that's something. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 verse 11, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the sons of men are fully set in them to do evil.
Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, when people think they can get away with stuff, all right, ultimately, they take the Lord's long suffering for granted.
Mm-hmm.
You see? And, Esau, Edom, so-called white man, he doesn't consider, all right, that the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is long suffering. All right, he's not considering that the Lord is building up his tab to deliver that ultimate judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So because Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is not considering that, ultimately, he's fully persuaded within his mind that he can continue on with his wickedness, or continue on with his deceit, his falsehoods, all these things, and not be punished for it, man.
Precept.
Yeah, let me finish this.
Go ahead.
Though a sinner do evil 100 times, and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, which fear before him.
Yep, and that's the elect, man. You see, so at the end of the day, it's going to be well with the elect. All right, but as far as those who don't fear the Lord, man, as far as Esau, Edom, the so-called white man is concerned, go ahead.
But it shall not be well with the wicked.
It shall not be well with the wicked.
Mm-hmm.
We know Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, to be the wicked. You see, and ultimately, that goes for the wicked of our people and these wicked heathen nations, man.
Yep.
You see? So ultimately, man, these people, man, these Edomites, man, they're not getting away with anything, man. You see, those of us whom the Lord has revealed his secrets unto, we understand what it's all leads to, man. All right, the end of Esau's kingdom. All right, Esau going in the chains. And ultimately, it ended with him being destroyed completely as a nation. You see, so hey, it's not gonna end well for this dude, man.
Neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feareth not before the Most High.
Yep, and that's why King David said in the Psalms, the transgression of the wicked hath said in my heart, there is no fear of the Most High before his eyes. You see? And we see that, man. All right, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, he is openly, okay, contrary and combative, Salakia, against Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Right, you got dudes like Noah, Yuval Harari talking about we can make the Most High mad. But you gotta have an immense amount of pride within your heart, and you gotta have a very, very wicked heart to even utter a fucking statement like that, man.
Yep.
You see? So hey man, y'all can keep playing with Yahweh Bashim Yahushua if y'all want to, man. All right, hey, the Lord getting ready to show you who's big boss, man.
Yep.
You got it.
Okay. This is the book of Job, chapter 30, beginning at verse 8. It says, they were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were violent in the earth. And you had just mentioned, you know, they just keep doing stuff, knowing that they're not going to get in trouble. That's just like a kid, you know, that keeps doing stuff. You tap a kid on the hands and he keeps doing stuff, you know, you know, they just, you know, until you just literally fuck them up, they won't quit. All right. So it says they were base men, and you know, Esau being the lowest of society. That's who, and he's in rulership right now. You know, no judgment, just wicked. You know, like I said, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. All right. It says, and they were violent in the earth. You know, when can you get that word vile for me?
Yeah, this is vile in the blue letter. It says nakah. It says to strike, scourge, smite. It says that's about it. I'll get it in Merriam-Webster.
Yep, get in Merriam-Webster's. You got it?
I'm pulling it up. If vile, it says morally despicable
There we go.
or abhorrent.
There we go.
It says physically repulsive, of little worth or account, tending to degrade, disgustingly or utterly bad.
Yep, and that's what they are as a nation of people, and you see that. You know, you got all types of videos of them kissing dogs in the mouth. You know, bestiality. You know, eating raw meat with the blood in it. Just a mess. All right. Verse 9, Job chapter 30, verse 9. It says, and now I am their song, yea, I am their byword. And what's that? You know, they call us everything but what we're supposed to be. Niggers, coons, porch monkeys, okay? Black, colored, African American, Negro, everything but the Israelite. And then have a problem when you today with us saying that that's who we are. You know, we can be everything else. And the most vilest of those names is a Christian, you know, which is totally against the scriptures. All right. Verse 10, it says, they abhor me, they flee far from me, and spare not to spit in my face. Okay, now you the most vilest a person on the earth, yet, you know, you're the one who is adverse to you know, righteousness and anything good. People who want to do things the correct way. You want to be in control of that and make sure that you destroy them. Okay, which is what you saw at this apartment complex. You know, you didn't want them there. You know, it took 4,000 people to attack, you know, a family. Absolutely ridiculous. That's just how you operate, Esau. Your playbook does not change. If you don't have a Jake outnumbered or outgunned, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose that fight. That's why you come in the numbers that you do. All right?
And you make it like it's a good thing, because you remember they used to push you know, we know history. These push the first to do this, the first black to
Yeah.
do to get here, and it's like because you know that you've made it so hard for the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians to excel in this system.
Mm-hmm.
To then where it's like when you finally give one a little bit of something, you make it like it was a prize.
Right.
That we have gotten here, but it's like you pretty much have been the gatekeepers to ensure that you know to of this illusion to make it like now in today's time the same devils back then. What was the year?
The year was 1951.
1951. So this, some of them people are still living today. Some of these people are still alive.
Yeah. Well, I remember that name, Adelaide Stevenson.
So that hasn't.
Yeah.
So again, that hasn't. You know, you had children. Some part of that 4,000 people. Sure, you had children, babies, old enough to recognize things that was going on, and these are the same ones that are in your grocery stores. You know, these are the same ones that are at your gym.
Yep.
You know, same people today. They remember this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And look back at how when they talk about making America great again.
Yep. That's exactly what it means. They can come in and destroy you, knowing that they have all the factions of government on their side. You know, you got to remember. You know, Psalms 17:13. Let me grab that right quick, if y'all don't mind, it's just to make this point. Psalms 17 and 13. And it reads, arise, O Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. You got to remember, those governments that join in with them are also part of the wicked too. And Jake, you don't have a defense against that. Okay? All these videos we've done, somehow, some way, there's a mob that takes over the jail. Bullshit. They let you in. They let you in. They're a part of that whole system. And if you start if you this book called Without Sanctuary, where they documented all the pictures of all these lynchings and hangings, rest assured, levels of government are in that crowd, smiling at those bodies that are being mutilated, burned, and hung, along with the children, doctors, lawyers, policemen, members of the military, which even that is within itself. They have a separate a militia clause, okay, in the Constitution. All of those guys are ex-military, so it's even in there. All right. We'll get back to the article.
Yeah, let's go try to finish
Yep.
it out.
All right. I'll just read. That was the last paragraph, but I'll just read it again. It says, although over $20,000 in damage have been done to the building, the Cook County grand jury failed to indict any of the accused rioters. Instead, they indicted Clark's NAACP attorney, Mrs. DeRose, the owner of the apartment building, her rental agent, and her attorney on charges of inciting a riot and conspiracy to damage property. Man.
No accountability.
Yep, no accountability. And that's, what's that, Isaiah 10 and 1? Was it 19 and 21? They turned a just thing for naught. I forget.
Oh, that's chapter 32.
Chapter.
Turn aside the just for a thing of
Grab
naught.
it.
Yep. Let me, Isaiah 29, is it 29?
Yeah, 29.
Yeah. Isaiah 29 and verse 20. All right. It says, for the terrible one is brought to naught. We're talking about Esau, Edom, and a scorner is consumed. And that scorner can be both Esau and Jacob. And all that watch for iniquity are cut off. All right. What's that iniquity? Sin upon sin upon sin upon sin. Endless sin. All right. It says to make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth at the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. And that's the thing. They made them the offenders for giving an apartment to these people. There's
and then coming in and speaking against the wrongdoing,
yeah,
the unjust treatment, right? And so of course, that's gonna be no different for us that are in these highways and byways,
yep,
teaching,
yep,
and preaching. So these are just an example, of many examples of how they're gonna do.
yep,
They can't get right. This is the pattern.
mm-hmm.
So we can't be surprised when they start to bring out these false accusations. Can't be surprised when they try to look to demonize, which they have been, right? The prophets of Yahweh Shem Yahushai.
Mm-hmm.
These are just part of the things that comes along with serving Yahweh Shem Yahushai. It says, know that when they hated me, hated you, that they hated me first. Right? He says, blessed are ye when men revile you and persecute you and say all manner of things against you for his sake. Because this is a whole different thing that we're coming in. We're coming in the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And this is a spiritual building, a temple that's being built that no man can throw down.
Yep.
And so when they come against this thing that Yahweh Shai has established, that's when that judgment is going to come down upon them that much more heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said, he that toucheth you, toucheth the apple of our eye, apple of his eye. And this is the hope and that we have, the faith that we have in Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and this is why he's given us, the blessing to do this work.
Yep. Yep. Like I said, he's gonna really, really let them have it. Let's get back to that, finish off that article. And it says, I'll start back at this point. It says, instead, they indicted Clark's NAACP attorney, Mrs. DeRose, the owner of the apartment building, her rental agent, and her attorney on charges of inciting a riot and conspiracy to damage property. Wow. It says those charges were later dropped. The federal grand jury then indicted 4 Cicero officials and 3 police officers for violating Clark's rights due to the riot. The Cicero police chief and 2 officers were also fined a total of $2,500 for violating Clark's civil rights. And that doesn't sound like a lot today, but you got to think this was 1951. That was a lot of money, $2,500. It says the Cicero race riot was the first to be viewed on television, and we can bet they skewed. I had to go back and look at the video, but they, probably skewed how that narrative was presented as well too, even though you have the facts here right in the story. All right.
Well, we'll end with the scripture. This is the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 7.
God.
It says, be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that soweth to the flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. And that's what we've just presented to you as an example of Esau, reaping of the flesh.
Yep.
All right. He, through his spirit, he has this perpetual hatred. And they've made it known throughout the whole entire world, when they made it a color thing.
Yep.
But really, it's a spiritual thing as well, going back to Jacob and Esau, right? That he had this perpetual hatred, this spiritual hatred toward his brother.
Yep.
And it says, but he that soweth to the spirit shall of the spirit reap life everlasting. And that spirit is the way the book Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, his holy scriptures, right? Keeping his ways to the best of our ability and teaching and preaching as such. So we hope that this lesson was edifying, uplifting, and exhorting to the elect body of the true believers. Before we end, we'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to
Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai B'Shem Rakakwadash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the 4 corners of the globe. Next time, all those listening and learning to you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.